Have you ever woken up and you think to yourself, shit, here we go again? Or you kind of feel like you're trapped and not really living to your fullest potential? Then you'll want to tune into this episode because I chat with my guests about how organizations can create environments that actually help individuals thrive and how individuals can take the time to really evaluate what makes them tick, what their strengths are, and how they can translate this into the problems that they'll solve for businesses so that they can also do more work of what they love and actually are good at. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of The Leader Within. Today, I'm excited to introduce Tammy Alvarez, CEO of Career Winners Circle, author, speaker, inspirational coach, and former corporate executive on Wall Street. Her spirited, break all the rules approach blends C-suite experience with a pragmatic, results-based coaching style that helps business professionals create a big impact and love every Monday again. Well, welcome, Tammy. I am excited to dive into your career because you've had a lot of experience within Wall Street and as a corporate executive. How has that shaped your career and your leadership style?
Angela, thanks for the invite. I'm so glad to be here and to be sharing my story with your audience today. So my career in Wall Street started a bit untraditionally in the fact that I didn't get my college degree until I was 40. And I was a managing director at 35. As a female and often the youngest female around the leadership table, I had to do things very, very differently. And that all stemmed, I think, from my earlier teenage years when my parents had split up. We never, we were always comfortable. But when my parents split up, long story short, is my mom, my sister, and I ended up homeless. And I saw how hard my mom struggled and all of the things that she went through. And I swore that that would never be me. And so when I got out of college, I didn't have good grades. I had no ambition, or when I got out of high school, rather. And so I didn't go to college. I started working right away. And I had this fearlessness about me because I was terrified. So all of my ambition in my early days were really fueled by fear. And because of that, and I had the amazing good fortune of some tremendous mentors, I was really able to do things I never thought was possible. And that really is how I navigated my entire career. And I love playing big and taking big risks and all of those things. And so I was very aggressive in my career and continued, from learning how the business worked to leading and then leading ultimately 2,000 people across 35 countries. So it was quite a journey. And it started from very, very humble beginnings.
Thank you for sharing that story. And when you talk about Wall Street, all I think about are the movies that I see as a kid where it's like and very intense, high paced. Everyone was running around their hair on fire. What was it like for you to grow your career there and be like, this environment is for me?
Um, I became a transformation expert. So whether it was starting a new business unit or, fixing something that was broken, that became really my sweet spot. And fortunately, when you're in financial services, something is always broken. So I was now bored. And when everyone was running out of the burning building, my team and I were running in to get things fixed. And so for me, and why I loved it so much is because you're working with really smart people. And you're working with really aggressive people. We're not even going to say assertive. We are just going to say aggressive. And when you're in a conference room and you disagree, you always know where you stand. But no one's going to sit there and smile and say, "Yeah, that's a great idea," and then sabotage you when you walk out the door. They'll just sabotage you at public. And that was just an environment that I thrived in. But at the end of the day, for all of the glitz and the glamour and all that stuff that, and the drama and intrigue that Wall Street has to offer, they're just people. And they're people that have the same challenges, the same struggles, and the same hangups that we all have. And it took me a long time to realize that because I had the imposter syndrome before it was even a thing. Because again, small town girl, no education, I wasn't well traveled. What am I doing here? Right? Most of the time, every time I got a promotion, I'm like, I have no idea why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing, but I better figure it out fast. And so, but it just gave me that continuous growth environment that I thrived in, but in a very fast pace, in a no nonsense way. Um, and I actually, they call it politics, right? That the office politics. And because I started my career earlier on the sales side, I always took a customer centric approach to working with my colleagues. And because I did that, I was able to play politics really well because at the end of the day, what your colleagues want is for themselves to be successful. So you can kind of get them what they're interested in and what they need through doing whatever it is you need to do. Well, then of course you're going to be the favorite person, right? Because you're helping everyone win versus creating an environment, which I see all too often today, where in order for you to win, somebody else has to lose. And that is toxic. And we're all experiencing that. And it doesn't have to be.
I appreciate your call on that customer centric piece. And it's not just for like the customer that is like buying your product or services, it's anyone who you encounter internally. They are like, if you can offer that experience, like you said, it's very difficult for people to not appreciate you, right? Because it's very rare that others have a similar mindset. And you led a 2,000 person team. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome in order to successfully lead that high performing team?
The biggest challenge I had was getting an honest answer. People wouldn't lie to me, but I wouldn't get the truth either. And I think the challenge we have as we move through our leadership career is the first big hurdle is, okay, I'm moving from individual contributor to leading. And most of the time you're leading your peers, and that's kind of awkward, right? So you're trying to get through that. And then you start to manage managers. Now you're managing people that are doing work you've never done. So you can't airlift in and fix it all up. You can't look at a strategy or an approach and say, that's not quite right, because you have no idea. And so when you as you continue to move up, you've got three things that hit you at the same time that don't do you any favor. And one is you're further away from the work. So you don't have that personal experience to be able to learn how to ask the right questions, not push the right buttons, so to speak. The second thing is that the higher up you get, the less honest people will be. Because you carry a bigger, you carry more weight. And it doesn't matter how approachable you are. Because I always look in the mirror and be like, see that small town homeless country girl. And it's like, no, this is not how people see. And so I always have that picture when you see that person with that long shadow with the sun behind them. And so you see yourself as that. Other people see you there. So they're going to tout what they say. They're not going to tell you that your baby is ugly when you have a dumb idea. And so these are the things that you struggle with the higher up you get. And then the third thing that's working against you is so you can't do the work. You're not getting 100% straight answer that you used to when, someone said, there's no way this project is getting done on time versus, no, we've got it, and the third thing is the decisions you make have a much more broad reaching impact. So if you don't slow down and if you don't seek to really understand and if you don't make not only permission, but a requirement for your leadership team to talk to you straight and tell you the things that you don't want to hear, you are going to have a very difficult time being successful. And because I was never the smartest person in the room, I always surrounded myself with people who were smarter than me because if I didn't, you and I would not be sleeping. And so I always sought to understand, but that was more of a natural tendency because I didn't think I had any of the answers, let alone all of them. And so I think as we grow on our leadership skills, those are three things you need to keep in mind, especially when you start to oversee work that you have not done yourself.
I love the visual that you just painted for us. And I want to dive just a little bit deeper into the part where we want to create an environment where we can get honest answers and the bigger picture, right? Because you can only make a decision based on what you know. Aside from seeking to understand, are there any safety valves that you can put into the system or into the processes that elicit some of that and create the environment for that? Or like maybe name one thing that has helped you with that.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can do, right? And so what I used to do is I used to hold one meeting a week, and the only topic of the meeting is what could go wrong. So it's when you say, tell me if you disagree, that's a different directive than all we're going to do is fill holes in this as a team and get better. And so when that's all you can talk about, then they don't have a choice. They've got to bring in the risks and things like that. So I think, creating a space where it's required and not just allowed, because it still takes time to build trust and you still have that big shadow issue that you're worrying about. So if everyone is glomming on the same thing, then that's great. The other thing I think is really a cool thing to do, which most people find, I typically want to learn this one, is the person that drives you the most crazy. The one that just disagrees with everything. As soon as you say white, they say black. And as soon as you say yes, they say no. We all know who they are. Bring them in closer. because most people are working with a sense of good intent. And it is, I have found 100% of the time true that they are seeing something I don't see. So instead of dismissing them as a problem child, or this person is just has it out against me, lean in more and bring them in because they're seeing something you don't. And that's important and valuable information for you to have. And then the third thing that I found that has always worked, and I work with my clients, whether they're CEOs or individual contributors today, when we coach with our clients, is to have that experimental mindset. And I'm sure everyone listening has had this moment, if you don't have it already, where you see a project that's underway, and this project is never getting done. And it probably should have been killed years ago. And you are spending millions of dollars and hours and anxiety and stress over something that's never going to get over the finish line. And that is because the leader has taken we're going to take this hill. And this is the way we're going to go. And then just, damn the torpedoes, let's do this. Versus having what I call an experimental mindset. So we've done a very good job within our software development methodology to take an agile approach. We won't build a big system in 3 years and does a big release anymore, right? We do agile work. Test it, try it, what worked, what didn't, modify, do it again. But we don't use the same approach with our leadership style. And so if we take that agile methodology, that experimental methodology, saying, this is the direction. I think this is the way we should go based on everyone's feedback. But let's do small increments. Let's test, keep the stuff that worked, get rid of the stuff that didn't, and do it again. Then that takes the political capital off of making decisions. And it allows you, especially when you tell everyone that you're doing this, it allows you that flexibility to adjust and pivot. Because at the rate of change that we're all going through today, it's only going to get worse. And so even if you made, which I don't believe is possible, but if you made a perfect decision today, then 6 months from now, through factors that have nothing to do with anything you could have seen or done, it may be the worst decision ever. And so it's not a personal damnation if you have to change direction. It's actually a leadership imperative. And so when we start to take that fluidity approach in terms of our leadership style, clear on our direction, clear on our purpose, and clear on what good looks like, but the how you get there is what changes. I think that's important. And we should be doing that for our businesses, and we should be doing that for our careers. And I don't see that ideology and that mindset apply often enough in corporations, in leadership, or in individuals and how they manage their careers.
Okay, I just want to give you a shout out, first of all, for the way that you approach the meeting, right? Instead of saying, do you disagree with me? Or what do you think about my idea, right? Because similar to what you said earlier, it's like no one's going to tell you that your baby is ugly, right? When it's your idea, and especially if you're a high level leader. But the whole concept of, okay, like what could go wrong for a blanket depersonalizes them and how they could potentially align with you. I use air quotes for align, right? With whatever that may look like. And so for yourself, like understanding that things are changing at such a rapid pace and leaders have to make decisions with such a quick rate, but understanding that sometimes they can slow down. To be agile, you can slow down just a little bit. What is a piece of advice to make effective decisions for individuals that are moving in such a fast pace?
Have a very, very clear North Star. So most of the time, and I challenge my clients to do this frequently, I said, I'm going to ask every single one of direct reports what success looks like. And I guarantee you I'm going to get different answers from every single one of them. And you do. And so until the team has a very clear definition of what good looks like and what success is and the metrics that you're using to manage that, then you're going to be flailing. But when you know that, okay, our primary metric, we want to lift a lot of things. So let's say our primary metric is revenue, profitability, customer satisfaction, quality, whatever it is, then that is what you measure. Then you make decisions based on, is that taking us in the direction of travel or further away? Because a lot of times there's so much fluff in what we do. And there's these, I call it kind of like how the US legislative system works. We've got this really good bill that solves a big problem. And by the time everybody talks in their special interest agenda, it's like loaded and nobody even knows what the original intent was. And so everybody's going to glom on to those, investment dollars and try and get some other things done. So when you can be really lean and very intentional in terms of the purpose, then you can make decisions quickly. And I think knowing one of the things I always used, again, because it came from a lack of self-confidence and just not having that command the hill mentality in terms of being more consensus driven, is I would always have a bailout plan before we even started. So like, all right, I think this is gonna work. Not exactly the way we think it is today, but I think we'll get there. And here are the warning signs that will tell us as an organization that this was not the right thing. And so, and so then we knew that what our pull to plug time was. So there's no political capital that's lost. The expectations of the leadership team and the board were set in terms of we think this is right, but if it's not here, we're not going to continue spending good money after bad and wasting precious time, which is the one thing you can't get back. And so from that perspective, I think leaders can be a bit more creative in how they position their business, how they want to grow, how they make decisions by getting really clear on the goals, and getting that bailout plan set. So that way, okay, if everything goes wrong, then there's a different fault the plot. And we're just not going to do this anymore.
Really great call out. And I wanted to switch gears just a little bit here. Is speaking of bailouts and success in general, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you see leaders and organizations face nowadays?
There's so many challenges, right? And I think leaders, I know I'd be dating myself here, right? But there's the camera's on, so we're not going to fit anybody. But there's this cartoon character called Don't Me, right? Where you pull the arms and get really, really stretched, and leaders are stuck holding the bag. They've got corporate that are making what feels like dumb decisions because you just don't see the whole story, or they made dumb decisions. Who knows? And they got employees that are like, "What is going on?" And these leaders are supposed to be holding everything together. Yet research continues to show that investment in leadership skills is at an all-time low. And leadership is one of the biggest concerns, or lack of strong leaders is one of the biggest concerns companies have. It's one of the biggest reasons employees will leave. And I think it just puts them in the hot seat. And how do you navigate that in terms of guiding and leading up? So decisions are, well informed and well communicated and well considered and well implemented. And then how do you engage and, get your people to start caring? And so I think that, today, and that's one of the biggest challenges that leaders have. And I think that's above and beyond what I would call the table stakes changes, which is leading through uncertainty, and being able to inspire people to follow, regardless of what the hierarchy or the org chart says. And, getting people excited and using and playing to their strengths instead of spending most of their days doing things that they don't like, aren't good at, or don't care about. And so there's just so all of that still exists. In addition to, I think that the rate of change and the fact that leaders, I think, are stuck.
Okay, I want to dive into that with you because one of the things that we had chatted about was you said there was a Gallup findings by Gallup, and you said like 80% of the global workforce was like satisfied, but only 20% are engaged, which ties into what you kind of just touched on. So what do you think is like one of the biggest things has caused like such a all-time low in engagement nowadays?
I think there's so many reasons why it's low. I think I think COVID reset a lot of things in terms of people having higher expectations of quality of life. It's like, oh, wait a minute, this job had to be every day. It doesn't actually have to be every day. And I kind of like my family and my fur babies and all that kind of fun stuff. So I think it gave people a perspective that there's more to life than work, especially in America, right? Where your career is so closely identified to your sense of self-worth and who you are and what you're about. And I think when that changed and people started getting called back to work, and the constant, acceleration, downsizing, and all of those things, people are just cagey, right? And they're just hedging because they should. Companies haven't earned little. And they expect to have it, and they blame the Gen Zers on like, oh, if I'm not happy, I'm going to leave. And I'm like, yes, it's exactly what should happen. It's the company's obligation to find a way to ignite, and I call that unstoppable force within their companies. And middle market, especially, all the research is showing with all the headwinds in terms of interest rates and geopolitical uncertainties, and all these major elections going on around the world, all these things. With all of this, one of the consistent top 3 concerns in middle market is what they call the talent resource shortage. Now, people get laid off every day, right? And companies are struggling because how do I find the right people? How do I access those top talent people to bring into my organization? And what I love is the big surprise that they're already right under your nose. They love doing their work one time, and now they don't. And it is so easy and so much easier to ignite that unstoppable force within your organization, because I think that I call it the zombie apocalypse that's invading corporations. And there's this haze of apathy. Getting back to that Gallup poll, 80% of people think it's good enough. 20%, 25% actually care. And so how do you take that middle route? Because you're always going to have your disenfranchised people. There's nothing you could do about that. Other than replace, right? So, I don't spend time there a lot because it's just a lot of time and effort to get very little gain. But we've got 60% of the workforce that wants to care, that wants to lean in, that want to make an impact, and that want to actually contribute. And so how do you get that fire relit? It's there. It's right under our noses. And that's where we're spending a lot of time helping our corporate clients right now is, using this three-pronged approach to be able to start to reignite that unstoppable force and really start to move the needle on that, because the companies that get this right are seeing a 4x increase in revenue. They're seeing a 30% increase in profit margins. They're seeing a massive increase in productivity, customer satisfaction, and they're not seeing the top talent drain that other companies are seeing, because people are like, this is cool work. I want to do this. But for us to do that, we have to make some small changes. And it's just amazing how much lift you get from just tweaking a few small.
What is one of the biggest dominoes within those small things that you find is a common way for leaders or organizations to be able to start there? I know it's context specific and organization specific, but is there like a common thread between all these little dominoes?
Absolutely. And the first step is to showing your employees, and that's from the CEO to, the front office, person, whatever it might be, how to become the CEO of their careers. We know how to run businesses, and especially as leaders, right? You can drive strategy, you can execute, you can manage risk, you can make these decisions, you add new things all the time. But what we don't do is we don't take all of those skills that we use to run our business and apply it to how we manage our career. And when you start to do that, then as an individual, good enough is no longer good enough. As an individual, you realize that, hang on a second, I want to play to my strengths. I want to do the things that I'm good at more often because it lights me up and it makes an impact. And I'm happy with what I do. And that is the very first thing to hit. And I was really surprised because when I wrote the book, Escaping the Career Trap, and the subtitle is Transform Your Apathy into Ambition and Never Hate Mondays Again, it was really written for the disenfranchised executive. Those mid to senior level leaders who are stuck with those golden handcuffs, which is on the cover. And like, I make too much money, I'm trapped, I can't get out, all that kind of fun stuff. And they're in that soul crushing grind. But what I found is that companies are not only paying me to come in and do keynotes for their organizations, but actually come in and help them learn how to do this. Because when individuals start treating their career like a business, and leaders learn how to foster that new mindset, not squash it, right? Because you don't want to kill it once you've built it. And then the executive team and the board level realize, okay, here's some of the things that we are introducing into the organization, and it's helping. Things like interviewing with 17 people before you get hired. Things like having to stay enrolled for 2 years before you get promoted. Like, what better way to have your top talent leave? Right? Things like not being able to give anybody 20% more because that's the rules when you're hiring somebody for 45% more from outside. Like, these things don't make sense. How we talent plan, how we succession plan, how we grow, how we provide an equitable, not just, how we give an equitable start to letting everyone have the same opportunities. So there's just really small things that could be done at all 3 points. And those are the pressure points. Those are the related triangles for the stool. But when you do that together, and so you've got people starting to take accountability and leaning into the stuff that they love to do. You have leaders who don't look at that as a threat, but look at that as a superpower. And you get rid of the headwinds that are well-intended, but that are slowing or taking things in the opposite direction of travel. It's amazing how fast companies can travel.
Okay, I love that you highlighted the fact that it's like you can equip the people to be CEOs of their career, but then if you bring those people those tools and then you decide to take all those tools away or just squash them, you basically just undid everything that you had invested in, right? So I appreciate that call out. And I also appreciate the call out on it's a two-way street, right? Like your company can only do so much. You also have to take that initiative. And you know how a lot of companies have a North Star? So maybe one piece of advice for those who don't know what a North Star looks like when it comes to being a CEO of their career, what would that one piece of advice be from you?
When you can tie your aspirations into how the company can achieve their biggest goals or solve their biggest problems, we focus on the wrong things. What we focus on is what's my title, how much money am I making, what are my fringe benefits, how big is my organization, how much power do I have? And what we really need to think about is what gets us out of bed every day, regardless of what we do for a living. And I guarantee you that you've got people on your team right now whose ambition is to serve, whose ambition is to inspire, whose ambition is to dig into information and make sense out of it. You've got all of these things, but ambition is hard to measure. You can't do a performance plan on ambition. Like that doesn't work. And so it's really hard to do that from a structural perspective. Now, when you put humanity back into the workplace and you start to treat people like humans, which they are. I mean, AI hasn't taken over the world yet. So we still got people leading people here. But when you can connect that ambition to solving some of the company's biggest goals and some of the company's biggest problems, everyone wins. Because now you've got people, because if you're ambitious about something, that's probably the stuff you're good at. And I would challenge everyone to think, how much of your day today is spent doing the things that light you up? And when I talk about that, what I mean is, what are the things that you can do for 12 hours straight and end the day more energized than when you started? For me, it's coaching, it's working with our coaches and our clients and doing this type of stuff, podcasts and keynotes. I love this stuff. I can do this all day, every day. Now, yes, I run strategy and run the finances and work with our business partners and all that stuff. But after a couple hours, I'm throwing pencils at the ceiling and spinning in my chair because I'm kind of bored, right? I'm like, this doesn't light me up. I'm good at it, but I don't love it. And so we can have people do more of what they love and apply those talents to the company's biggest problems. The problems get solved faster. The politics go away. And when you realize that instead of having everyone do the same job, of which 20% is kind of the things that might come up, if you can reshape how work is done and where everyone is doing the things that they're great at, you're going to go so much faster.
I appreciate that. And as we slowly wrap up our conversation, what would you say is the first thing that comes to mind that will help individuals and organizations unleash their potential?
Get really clear on what I do. It's amazing how many people don't know because we don't get to do it very often. Right? We do things we have to. We get good at things we need to. Like, I'm not a numbers girl, but I got really good at running a P&L. And I didn't love it, but I did it. And I did it well. But there was some stuff that really lit me up. And so what I would encourage, step one for everyone listening today and for your teams, is to find that thing that is their superpower. And that is their strength. And try and do more of that every day.
Amazing. And my last question to you is, what is one thing you're working on that lights you up? And what is a way that people can potentially help you?
So the thing that is lighting me up right now is the evangelizing, right? So our company is now focused on eradicating the apathetic haze that has settled into organizations. It's a big lofty goal because eradication, requires a lot of work. I'm so excited when we have the opportunity to work with leaders that whether there's a vision and they want to create like a micro culture or, it's a full company in terms of the size of the organization, where they know that all of the solutions to their problems is sitting in their office right now. How do I get access to that? How do I untap that? It's like you're sitting on this massive farm, with oil underneath and you don't even know, right? So how do I get that out? And so, because everyone wins. And the individual wins, leaders win because it's more fun. They're not playing dummy anymore and getting pulled in a million different directions. And obviously the executive team and board wins because the shareholders are happy. And so, all of these things just make such a big impact. And it takes such little effort in terms of changes. And it can happen so quickly that being able to help clients see those aha moments as fast as they do is just what is lighting me up right now. It's just, it's getting out of bed and just ready to tackle another day and help.
Your passion is contagious, and I'm so excited to see the impact that you're going to make because it's such important work. So, Tammy, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, all the practical tips that you offered us today. And to everyone else that's tuned into another episode, thank you so much for your time and attention. It means more to me than you'll know, and I can't wait to stay in touch with you on my next episode.
Great.
Till then, stay safe.